Vladimir Putin is absolutely furious after Ukraine conducted a special operation to neutralize a fuel storage facility in western Russia. The Ilsky refinery was bombarded by Ukrainian drones and helicopters, which resulted in multiple explosions taking place within the facility. This is terrible news for Putin because this is one of Russia's largest privately owned fuel storage sites in the entire country. The fuel storage site that was targeted was expected to produce more than 5 million tons of oil in 2025, and most of its production capabilities have been completely shut off. But the value of the military equipment used to strike the facility was relatively cheap compared to the targeted fuel storage facility. The drone that Ukraine used to conduct the strike is estimated to be worth around six figures. Logistically, this is a major embarrassment for Russia, which now faces the reality of having a $1 trillion oil lifeline cut off by a drone that cost a few $100,000 to produce. So, what does this mean for the war between Ukraine and Russia? It means that Russia's ability to fund the war is going to become much more difficult, because selling oil and gasoline was always one of the best ways for Russia to support its military during the conflict. But Putin faces a scenario that he's not going to be happy about. In fact, he's going to be furious when he realizes how much money this will cost Russia. And it's not like Russia's economy is booming as it is. It's pretty much in free fall thanks to an overwhelming number of sanctions. And a recent sanctions package that was passed by the European Union is only going to restrict Russia's economy even more. This comes in unison as President Trump also weighs the possibility of placing additional sanctions on Russia. This is one reason that Putin was interested in meeting with Trump in the state of Alaska, with the hopes of pursuing peace and reaching a favorable deal that would grant Russia the ability to end the war on its own terms. But violent attacks have continued on both sides, and modern drone warfare continues to impact both countries severely. With the apparent negotiations stalled, Ukraine, for the first time since the beginning of the war, has the opportunity to actually gain ground and reclaim large portions of territory that were previously lost. But it doesn't come without a major cost, as thousands of troops have been wounded or killed in the process. With a massive chunk of Russia's oil now unusable for military operations and sales, Putin is now forced to redirect oil and gas from facilities that are hundreds of miles away. This is not ideal for Russia's war efforts because it adds a layer of vulnerability to his country's resources and soldiers. But why wasn't Russia able to defend from these drone attacks? The answer should be even more terrifying for Putin. The kamikaze drones that Ukraine has been using are almost never detected by Russian air defenses. This allows these cost-effective drones to slip by the defenses and cause chaos behind enemy lines. Putin has to be concerned that more unexpected drone attacks could target his oil storage and production facilities. With one storage facility already facing major damage and restoration time, Putin knows that his options are becoming more limited. A war effort that was supposed to last a few days or weeks is now stretched out for years, and Putin is furious. And there are also some new developments. Russia has been sending drones and military aircraft of their own into NATO countries, and it's unknown whether these anomalies are on purpose. But the United States is suggesting that these countries have the right to their self-defense and should shoot down Russia's aircraft if they do in fact enter their country's airspace. Logistically and optically, this is bad news for Putin because it's not a good look for Russia that these incursions are happening. But even worse than what's happening on the battlefield is the result of the war that is taking place on Russia's economy. The U.S. Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, publicly stated the outcome of the war would likely come down to whether the Ukrainian military can hold on long enough for Russia's economy to collapse. He hopes that Trump's new sanctions on the countries that purchase Russian oil would further reduce Russia's economic status and force them to end the war. There's a major worker shortage in Russia as a result of the war as well, and Putin has started to use North Korean troops to help his war efforts. Putin hasn't exclusively accepted troops from the Hermit Kingdom, widely known around the world as North Korea. Putin has also accepted long-range missiles that have assisted his own war efforts against Ukraine. In exchange, Russia has helped North Korea with food shortages and general financial aid. And while Russia's economy has faced hardship, it's also been very resilient in the past. But that could be coming to an end as Trump adds additional pressure to Russia by adding tons of new sanctions. New sanctions that have also been imposed by the EU. This puts Putin on the defensive, as he realizes that the situation on the battlefield is not going his way. It was already bad enough when cost-effective drones were able to take away a $1 trillion lifeline that Putin had from the very beginning. But with every drone strike against his resource supply, he loses billions of dollars of potential military funding. At the same time, less oil production means his military will serve far less efficiently. We saw warning signs of this when Putin became so desperate that he asked North Korean troops to help with the war effort. Now Putin faces one of the toughest decisions that he's had to make since he launched the invasion against Ukraine several years ago. Putin has to decide to negotiate an end to the war, or find a way to push his economy hard enough to finish the war despite momentum building for Ukraine. And as the reality of the situation sets in, Putin's anger may force him to make a decision that will cost Russia in the long run.